So a couple years ago, I talked about camping, and I sort of made fun of it a little bit and said I didn't like it, and we never camped again. So then my husband Rick says, Jean, why don't you talk about marriage this year? I was like, well, like my style, right? Like, you know what you're asking here. And he's like, well, you'll say good things too. So with that wonderful endorsement, let's talk about earthly marriages. I don't claim to have the best marriage in the world or the perfect marriage. I just have a marriage to my husband, Rick, for 22 years. And most of the time, he thinks I'm swell, and I think he's swell. So there you have it. That's my professional background. I have 2 tips that I want to go over tonight. One is be a cheerleader for your husband, and the second one is embrace your differences. The first tip is to be a cheerleader. 1 Thessalonians 5:11. So encourage each other and build each other up just as you are already doing. I love it when I overhear Rick talking about me and my speaking, being proud of me for my nursing job. He'll brag about how many residents are under my care or whatever it is. It feels good when I know that he's proud of me. So whatever your husband is interested in, whatever he's passionate about, get interested in it. Because chances are, even if he doesn't want you to do it with him, like if it's golf or fishing or hunting or whatever, he would probably love for you to be proud of him for it. So I just was thinking the other day, what if, for all the hunting wives, what if your husband was in the house and you were with your girlfriend and you came upon the hunting room, where you're like, well, that's where he keeps all his deer heads and whatever. Like, I'd never hear any love coming out of any wives that are like, oh yeah, well, you don't want to see him there. That's the hunting room. It's down in the dungeon. But what if you went into that hunting room within earshot of your husband and he overheard you say, you know how you got that one? 4 hours in a tree. Dang near missed it. Look at the markings on this one. Is the white in that fur, is that not so beautiful? Look at that. He would be like, flip backwards in his recliner or whatever. Oh my goodness. So embrace your differences. Now I would like to make a more serious point. There was an incident 10 years ago when I didn't overreact and Rick didn't underreact, because we had this plan in place where we would, if it was a true emergency, I would beep Rick and I would put 911 at the end of our phone number. So I had to use that, and I wish I never had to, but it was a good plan that we had in place, because I called Rick. He called me right back. I said, Mark fell. He was almost 2 at the time, our youngest. I said, he's unconscious, he's barely breathing, and I'll meet you at LGH. So that's what we did. And that incident was really the beginning of me not being the wife that Rick married, the fun-loving, silly girl you see now, because I was just sort of sent into this. I was just obsessed with Mark, and pretty much the rest of the family had to just fend for themselves. So, but the cool thing was that Rick hung in there, and he waited for me for 2 years, until God finally saved me from my sadness, praise God, and let me be able to breathe again. And and Mark's okay now for everybody. He's doing great. But the cool thing was that before I even came home from the hospital with a new Mark, my husband Rick had carpeted the cement floor downstairs because he knew that I'd worry. And I just thought that's just what husbands do, you know what I mean? They don't react the way we think they should sometimes, but they do some pretty cool stuff. Medically, Mark's been really stable. He'd suffered a head injury and a stroke, but he was medically very stable for a long time. But we just decided, he's 13 now and he's taller than me, that we would do some tendon lengthening surgeries on his left arm and his left leg. So here goes Jean, getting a little concerned, getting a little stressed out. We were talking to a therapist who was kind of explaining the details to us some about what they were going to do and the post-op procedure and all that kind of stuff. So the therapist walks away and Rick looks at me and goes, Now don't get all stressed out. Just relax. And the poor guy, honestly, he's like, we don't even have this surgery scheduled yet, and she's getting stressed out because we don't have it scheduled yet. But I'm totally stressed out. But, you know, I mean, it's a legitimate concern because he remembers how I was. And I don't really like getting bossed by Rick. Like, relax. It's like, look, Mark's going to have surgery. If I want to get stressed out, I'll get stressed out. I mean, that's what I'm thinking. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like it. We'll be in meetings for Mark, IEP meetings with his teachers and therapists and everything, and all Rick will do is just touch my leg. And it's basically like, gee, don't say whatever you're thinking. And, like, I don't like it. When he does it, I'm like, but I mean, but it's God. It is God bringing two people together that are totally different and making it okay. And it's just a matter of embracing your differences. You and your marriage partner are like bookends in your relationship, and you keep your family together. And even though it doesn't always feel good all the time, it's the right thing. So let's read Genesis 2:24 one more time. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and they will become one flesh. Thanks be to God.